Enjoy with your headphones for a better listening experience.
Please watch till the end of the video to have the most scariest part of the story.
People who have cheated before, why did you do it?
Episode 2.
In this video, we explore the reasons why some people cheat on their partners, and how they feel about their actions. We interview different people who have cheated before and ask them to share their stories and motivations. We also discuss the consequences of cheating, and how it affects the relationship and the self-esteem of both parties. Whether you have cheated, been cheated on, or are curious about the topic, this video will give you some insights and perspectives on this complex and controversial issue. I was bartending one night. She walked into the bar. She was my perfect type. Tall, slender, dark hair, just gorgeous. My first thought was, please be single, and she sat down next to her husband. They were married about 6 months. He was a Wall Street banker. She was a nurse. I got to talk to them at the bar and we hit it off. Turns out the guy and I had some mutual friends and grew up near the same suburbs outside of Boston. We went to the same college, but I was older than him by 10 years. Same sports fans, etc. We became friends, all three of us. They kind of had a strange relationship. They literally, and I mean literally, didn't have more than 2 or 3 actual friends. I was one of them. We would do lots of things together. She became pregnant and I became the godfather to her child. I was written in their will, and they told me if they both were to die, they wanted me to raise their kid. It's too long of a story to write here, but over the course of 8 years she and I became close while her husband and I were cordial, but our friendship faded. She and I never cheated. It was an emotional thing. He was distant and dismissive of her feelings, so I kind of became the surrogate boyfriend. She and I would go out to dinner or do other things together, with her kid and without him, and he was fine with it. He even suggested I take his wife and kid on a vacation to Bahamas so he could get a break from being a dad. I loved her. But never crossed the line. Always hoped deep down she would see I was the better guy. Hoped that maybe someday she would leave him. During the summer of 2020 she tells me she's divorcing him. She's had enough. I have heard that before from her. She's claiming she's serious this time. I kind of brush it off. She's hanging out with me much more. It's COVID and people are working from home. She can't stand being in the house with him. She even stopped wearing their wedding ring. He would ask her about it, and she would make up an excuse like she forgot to put it on. This went on for 3 weeks. I started to realize she was serious, and she even had a lawyer lined up, but didn't start the proceedings yet. She felt it was bad timing with COVID. One morning she's working from home, but at my home because she needed space from her husband, and we get to talking. I initiated the talk about her actually divorcing. And what her post-divorce life might be like. I told her there would be a line of guys around the block that would want to date her. I chuckled and said, if you were single, I'd throw my hat into the ring to date you. She smiled and said that I would be the kind of guy she would want to date. That turned into more talking, and after a few days we are having frank discussions about dating each other after she's divorced. This went on for about 2 more weeks. We started to text/FaceTime and talk on the phone more, like on a daily basis. Physically we weren't cheating, but we were going down that road. One morning she was finished before work. As a nurse she was going into the hospital for a few days, and we were talking some more, and I leaned in. She leans in. We kiss. We were stone cold sober. It was passionate. Really hot. Lasted only a few minutes. She had to get to work. More talking about life after him and being free. It starts to feel like she's at the tipping point of divorcing. The problem is, her kid. She loves him. He's only 6 years old. Feels super guilty about divorcing her husband and ruining her son's life. She doesn't love her husband, but she loves me, and has told me so. Said she loved me for years and wished she knew sooner how I felt about her, and also loves her son. On paper, she has an amazing life. Her and her husband probably make $500,000 combined income. Net worth of $3 million. They drive a Range Rover. Own a very brownstone in Brooklyn Heights. It is summer in the Hamptons. It's hard to just walk away from that. I do well enough. But I'm just a bartender. Not some Wall Street banker. I have always been smart with my money. I even own my own apartment and saved up $700,000 in an IRA over the years. I put away around $10,000 a year since I was 25 for retirement and fell into some money from my parents passing away. While going through the emotional affair and just kissing each other, it turned into more than just kissing. Do I feel bad? No. I was under the impression she was just waiting for COVID to end, and then she was divorcing him. I'm sure lots of people like me have heard that. I had known her for 8 years, and she couldn't be lying to me. No way. The guilt of what we were doing became too much. The affair lasted about 2 months, and we slept with each other only a handful of times. I told her that I didn't want this. It was around Thanksgiving 2020. Get a divorce. Give me a call. That's how I left it. She texted me a bit and even visited me once in mid-December 2020. We only talked a bit. She even told me then the plan was to get a divorce. I told her to let me know when it happened. Then she ghosted me. I sent an email to her around Christmas. Never heard back. Tried calling her office a week later. Got voicemail. I waited. Weeks turned into months. Never heard a peep from her. We live in the same area of town, never saw her. I didn't push it. I figured with COVID still raging in 2021 that a divorce would be by summertime. I found out in April she was pregnant. I never spoke to her. I'm not sure if it was planned or if he suspected and put a bun in the oven. It's December 2021 now, and while I know it's over, I'm still hurting over it. Again, I genuinely felt she was leaving him. I know from the outside looking in, this is easy to scoff over. I was her friend for years, before we had an affair. We just had a deep, emotional friendship. I get angry and hate people who are in affairs. But when you are the one in the affair, when you are with the person who you waited for your entire life, it's hard to just think, oh, I'll find someone else. I have dated my life and never met anyone like her. I'm not sure if I will ever again, and I just want some kind of closure. I want to just hear from her what happened. I know logically what happened. I was the side piece, and when I put my foot down, she was out. I never thought I would be the type of person to do that. But like I wrote before, it's hard when you meet someone that great in your life. If I was dating hundreds of awesome women, then whatever, but when you are in your mid-40s, the dating pool dwindles down, even for NYC bartenders. Tinder can be rough. You get bot accounts or lots of people who don't even compare to her. Well, that's my story. Edited to add, it's 2 years later. Still haven't seen her. I saw her on the street. She looked well. She was with her 2-year-old daughter. I didn't approach her. She didn't see me. There's really nothing to say. Maybe in another life. Because the relationship was done, and I was already moving on emotionally. I just didn't care about her enough to care whether she was hurt or not. Honestly, in hindsight, I have zero idea why we were still together. It did make the eventual breakup a lot messier. I was young, and it taught me an important lesson. If you're done, just be done and leave. There's no point in dragging it out. If you're ready to start looking for another relationship, start by ending the relationship you're already in. I was the other man, but she told me specifically why. They were an influencer-type power couple, and they had a dead bedroom, and then she found out he was cheating with a paralegal at his firm. They had a huge fight, and he angrily told her that she should go find someone to sleep with, assuming she wouldn't. I ran into her the next day, and just talked with her, and she broke down. 90% of it initially had to do with me simply being kind to her when she was at a really low point. But she said it morphed into the fact that I treated her like a vibrant and attractive woman and met her needs. She compared it to drug addiction, to which she had no actual frame of reference, because she had been missing that for so long. They ultimately kind of sort of worked things out, but every Saturday for 5 months she was at my house all afternoon, and sometimes on Sunday. Not me, but my ex and my mother. They both cheated a lot, and for the same reasons. They were incredibly self-conscious and insecure. They didn't even have to really like the people they cheated with. They just craved the attention. When someone liked them and made them feel good, it gave them confidence. Saying no would have ended their confidence boost, and they were always too afraid to say no. I've watched them both cry their eyes out because they don't want to be cheating, but they felt completely out of control. They felt like horrible people, and rightly so. They were both people pleasers, always afraid to say no to anything and everything, and that escalated when anyone would come onto them. As far as I saw, they hated themselves so much that they felt they needed these outside sources to make them feel whole. Understanding why my ex cheated so much made me view him as a human. He's still my roommate and best friend, and he's currently in a wonderful relationship where he's been completely monogamous and hasn't cheated, and I'm immensely proud of him for working on himself. Cheating sucks, it hurts. But trying to see it from a human perspective can sometimes take the pain away. It was in middle school, my best friend brought a flash drive with CS 1.6. It was god-tier game at this moment, a lot of servers and fun. But fun times ended when my older brother decided to use wallhack ambits and highly encouraged us to use those to win. So, I was cheating in almost all competitive games until I hit 16 to 17. I went to college and made some friends that were playing online games too. I proudly showed them my cheat collection and they were furious. Now, I never cheat. I was emotionally immature and had yet to really understand trust in any non-self-serving way. I still feel shame about what I have done, but am no longer ashamed of myself. It is, and I hope will remain, one of the worst set of actions I've taken in life, and I actively remind myself of the importance of being honest in my words, actions, and relationships, and of the pain that betrayal can cause. No one deserves trauma or to be manipulated. Confronting yourself as you are really difficult, especially if you grew up in a household that repressed emotions. If you don't have the language, tools, or experience to understand yourself, your feelings, or the feelings of others, it is alarmingly easy to compartmentalize and excuse your actions. Pro tip, start therapy before you think you need to. There's likely some part of yourself you still need to acknowledge, discover, explore, or tend to. Revenge. Was with someone for 4 years who was cheating the whole time. I found out in the first month and kept crying and begging her to stop. I know, pathetic. Finally, I cheated to show her how it feels. She called me used up, dirty, etc. I had only kissed someone lol, I still do not condone cheating or think what I did was okay. I was not in a great headspace after being manipulated for so long. Having a lot of fear of commitment and the finality of my decisions, but a lot of insecurity too. Wherever it stems from, my infidelity never felt good or like being a player or anything. It always felt like a cushion for the fear of being left by myself, losing a person who I invested everything of myself and my feelings into and seeing them go. It's like opening windows on the off chance you need to crawl out of one someday. But so often, like I did, you realize too late that you invested so much of yourself into them anyway, and when you get tossed out of that window, partner ended it and kicked me out in my case, you realize you're in a skyscraper. I heard a lovely, wonderful person who I loved very much, wanted to build a life with, got a dog with, moved to California with, and shared beautiful moments with, and who was just as afraid of abandonment as I was. The only difference is she chose me, and I couldn't see why. But even if I didn't like myself, I knew far too late that she was the best thing to happen to me in a long, long time, and she had to go even if it crushed me, and I begged her to stay. I only hope that she's happy, wherever she is, being the best thing to ever happen to somebody else who loves themselves enough to treat her the way she always deserved. We don't decide how we get shaped by life and its traumas and tragedies, but the simple truth is that when you want all of somebody's love, you need to give all of yours. It's a crazy investment, a total leap of faith, but when it's real, it's worth every moment. Revenge. He did it first. I had hard evidence, and he refused to admit it. I did the same thing. He could never prove it. Toxic behavior for sure, but I have no regrets. We've been broken up for 10 years now. Still friends with the person I cheated with. I was told that every time I went out of his direct presence that I was cheating. This went on for 13 years. So, I gave in to being petty and cheated. I never thought I would, but I did. It was 100% selfish, and I was horrified at myself. However, it was the best, most selfish choice I made. I realized how unhappy I was, how much we had grown apart, and that I did not want to continue the road I was on because I would hate the person I was with. So, I confessed immediately afterward and stated that we were over. We are both in a much better place even if our hearts are still a bit sore. Honestly, this is a dark question to ask, fascinating to hear the stories told, and many pretend they were still in the right/justify why. Which is ironic. I've known many friends that cheated and continue to do it for impulsive reasons, minor or major. It's a hard truth. Once a cheater, always a cheater isn't a saying that was made up. Truthfully, if I were seeing someone and they admit that to me in any context they cheated/got back at an ex, I'd run away immediately. Hope the people that did cheat learn from it, but I don't have time to deal with the repercussions. All relative though. I've cheated twice and both times were for basically the same reason. I liked a girl who made it plain she wasn't interested, so I started dating someone else. The previous girl makes a play, now I'm taken, the rest is history. I'm not proud of either incident, or the second one in particular had dire, long-lasting consequences, but I was stupid, arrogant young man who did a lot of questionable stuff back then. Never did it again. This story is hindsight 2020. I was in a meaningful relationship with someone for 8 years, someone I love deeply and think a part of me always will be. I worked in EMS for 10 years as a paramedic, and although never officially diagnosed with PTSD, it would be unrealistic to say those experiences didn't affect my psyche/mental health. Couple that with a much later diagnosis of ADHD, which for anyone unfamiliar is a neurocognitive difference involving dopamine and the brain's prefrontal cortex. A part of that can be impulsivity and a lack of connecting actions to consequences for some people. I would have impulses that I'd act on when feeling particularly depressed, namely random encounters and substance abuse. I was an absolute POS, and I have accepted that ultimate responsibility lies with me alone regardless of other factors. Not an easy thing to live with, but no less than I deserve for the hurt and pain I caused. Because he cheated on me first. I couldn't get out of that relationship even if I wanted to. He was extremely possessive and emotionally abusive. He would come back, and I had to accept him, and if I didn't accept him and tried talking to anyone to make friends/move on, he'd harass them, even if we'd broken up. The only way I could get out of it was by cheating, as he hated the thought of me being impure. I was always loyal, and that was something he wouldn't expect of me in a lifetime. It really opened my eyes, as the person I cheated with knew what I was doing and was genuinely kind and caring, and for a while I felt alive. I felt like I could be treated better. I was in a seriously abusive relationship, so tangled I didn't know how to get out of it safely. I was literally addicted to torture, yes, like the Stockholm Syndrome. It's the real thing in abusive relationships, and why you see people stick with their abusers for as long as they do. Anyway, I met someone at a small bar/club. We hit it off and dated for about 3 months, before he eventually just kind of stopped talking to me. I didn't fight it. I imagine he wanted more time with me than I was able to give him, given the fact that I was also a college student and in still totally a long-term relationship with my abuser. I also cheated on my abuser when I found my current partner for about a month or two before breaking up with him. But at that point I was only with my abuser for show. I hated his guts, only saw him once or twice a week, and dating my current so was literally the catalyst I needed to finally unshackle myself from the abuse once and for all. I hate that it had to be that way to get away from him. But abuse makes you do some pretty wild things. Thankfully, I wasn't exclusive yet with my current so while cheating on my abuser. But it's also not something I really want to advertise to my so. He knows that it was a back-to-back relationship, and he knows the thing I went through. He's more of a don't ask/don't tell kind of person when it comes to that sort of thing. And I trust that even if I did tell him, even if he wouldn't like hearing it, he wouldn't totally fault me for it either. I'm still with my so, 6 years later. He is my person, my happy place, and I thank the stars every day for the life we've built together. And it would be the biggest honor of my life for him to be my only partner for the rest of our days together. Was technically cheating, but... So, I was in the army still and on active duty. I had been a patient at Eisenhower Army Medical Center in Fort Gordon and was finally heading back out after 8 months. I went back to South Korea, which for most of us is an unaccompanied tour. You don't get to bring your spouse and kids and other dependents. I was married. My wife had lived most of her life about 40 miles from Fort Gordon, but it's not relevant to how we met. Anyhow, that's why I was hospitalized there, but I couldn't normally get stationed there. Before I left to go to Korea, she had asked for a divorce. Things got worse in the first couple of months I was there at the hospital, and they remained bad. I agreed that I would put aside some money for a lawyer while in Korea for the next year, hook up that divorce when I get back. In the meantime, I made a new bank account and put about $1,000 per month in the old joint account for her. She owned the house with no mortgage, owned the car without a payment, had my car too, had a full-time job, her dad and brother lived and worked there too, and the kids were all in their teens. She was not hurting for cash, and had family there to help. I considered us separated, though legally I guess it depends on which state you asked. I didn't bother asking South Carolina or Georgia. We divorced in North Carolina in December the following year, after I was stationed at Fort Liberty, formerly Fort Bragg, following that year in Korea. So, a short while into my year in Korea, I was introduced to this gal, Misty. She came to our unit new, fresh from training. Different company, in the same battalion. Our paths did not cross at almost duty days, but my friend Rod had gone to pick up the new folks a couple of hours away and I happened to be around when he showed up with them. That evening, Memorial Day weekend, so first night going into a 4-day, I ran into her at the little bar on our tiny remote installation. Camp Page, if any of you are old like me and remember that wonderful little spot in Chungcheong. A new white girl draws some attention over there. She took a seat with me at a table outside where we could both smoke. I know, we've both quit since then, almost 20 years ago. That kept the circling vultures at bay. So, my friend Ryan, with whom I had served previously in Georgia and Texas, was there too at Camp Page. Ryan was single. I got this idea in my head that I could gently nudge her in his direction. She seemed cool. But that also meant that I spent some time with her that I wouldn't otherwise have. And after a while, yes, it turned into a use thing for a couple of months. I did tell the wife that I was seeing someone else over there, but I can't remember how she reacted. After I returned from Korea, I knew she kind of didn't want that divorce anymore. She got it anyway. I couldn't deal with the idea of resuming the vows after I had abandoned them, and none of our marital issues had been resolved anyway. My ex-wife died in a car accident later. We divorced in December of 2005, and her life ended in July of 2009. She loved beach music and her family. She still owed me money for an unpaid cell phone bill that was charged off. Life's not simple. Misty, the gal from Korea, stayed a while in the army. We stayed friendly and kept in touch on and off. I ran into her in Kuwait in late '07 when I was headed home on leave from Afghanistan, and she was headed back to Iraq from leave. We got to grab chow and catch up. She later had a son before she got out. She and the kiddo moved back to California since then. Ryan eventually got out, got a job, got married, and I think lives up in Washington. I don't think about the whole thing much. To me, the marriage was over in all but the legal sense when I left to go to Korea. She and I only talked maybe once a week by then, and it was at a point where neither of us cared enough to argue anymore. It's tragic that she died so young, 42, but thankfully at least the kids were all adults by then. Her mother died young too, though from a heart condition. Why did I cheat? Why does anyone? I was alone and lonely. Someone fell into my space who was more than just a pretty face. Sure, I put myself in that position and probably subconsciously meant to. If I was just simply horny, there were red light districts aplenty around the country. Hell, illegally shared internet was a thing by then. It wasn't that. I did it because I was alone, and I was lonely and the opportunity to not feel that way was available to me. Bottom line, I had a lot of issues with validation, and I wasn't thinking about the pain I would be causing my partners. I started off with a partner in high school who constantly flirted with other people and cheated on me multiple times, so I started to cheat back as a way to get even or hurt them before they could hurt me, and then I just kept on with the pattern. I didn't really learn to face my own inner security and issues until I cheated on someone who could have been the love of my life. Even after I was caught and had convinced them to take me back, I had a continual problem with honesty, integrity, and appropriate friendships. It was only after I was able to continually go to therapy and change aspects of my life and relationships one by one that I was able to really change, and by then it was too late to save the romantic relationship I had through most of my 20s. In the end, they left me and moved away, and I can understand why. I wish I had learned how to treat people I loved better earlier, but at some point, after some deep self-work, you have to forgive yourself and just try to be better to the people you have in your life in the future. I was in a long-term relationship, and it was everything you could ask for, literally everything: beautiful girl, great relationship, future, etc. I was a gumbo competitive bodybuilder and was in a lot of gear. None of that is an excuse, and I cheated on her quite a lot for about 6 months with the same person who knew I was cheating, but she didn't care. I am so regretful of it. I hate myself for it. I literally hurt someone for a nut, and I am disgusted in myself. 5 years later I got with another girl after realizing I shouldn't be with anyone as I was toxic. Within a month I cheated on her and realized I am just a scummy dirtbag that doesn't deserve someone emotionally, so I admitted it before we got too serious, took a slap, and obviously went separate ways. 3 years I met someone that I thought was the best thing ever. Over the course of our 2-year relationship I went round some girls I met about 6 times just for fun and decided it was time for a lot of intense therapy. Currently single, going to remain single probably forever because being like this and risking hurting someone isn't fair. Why did I cheat? Because I was a slimy prick that didn't respect my partners. Do I regret it? Daily. Will I do it again? No, because I will stay single. If you ever think about cheating, honestly don't do it. I found my partner less and less attractive as she put on about 40 kilograms over the 2 years we were together. She was already a little bit thick to start with, which I liked, but she got huge, and we stopped being intimate and I found myself looking elsewhere. Not proud of it, I should have just left, but I keep myself in decent shape. I expect a base level of self-care from my partner as well. Not proud to admit, but I did it out of anger, regret it every day, and I wish I could take things back. Not worth it in the long run. I'm lucky enough I'm still with the person I love, but most aren't that lucky. Realize what you have before it's too late. Take a long look at yourself and your actions and apologize to yourself and your s/o. If you love someone, no matter what you're going through, you treat them like you love them. Not exactly proud of it and not blaming my partner at the time, but I legitimately think if I never went to those lengths she wouldn't have ever left. I tried leaving her, telling her how unhappy I always was, and she just refused to acknowledge it. Like I said, not proud of doing it and not blaming her for what I did. I know this thread is meant to elicit something else, but this is near and dear to me and still fairly raw, and no one really expresses their feelings, or gets the chance, on the opposite side of this coin. All I see are excuses. Very few people are saying, I was just an uncaring asshole. To those that are, bravo, you have a slight chance at redemption. To the rest. As a victim of this and having my entire outlook on life completely changed, my trust in people shattered, and my future bleak, I can say to all of you who answer, I hope you live to be 100, I hope you live a long, healthy and even happy life, but I hope when you are 100 you cry yourself to sleep over the pain you have caused someone who loved you as your days on this earth start to become numbered and you reflect on the kind of person you were. Because no matter how remorseful you are and no matter how wonderful the new life you created with new understanding is, there is still someone out there that you broke into 1,000 pieces and they, more likely than not, did not deserve that, or fully recover. And to those who think they have worked it out with their so and things are better now, they aren't. I can guarantee the love they have for you now is completely different than what they felt before, and the kicker is that was probably why you did what you did, and now you have less than what you had to begin with. And if they know, no one, not your coworker, your best friend, your so or even your parent, looks at you the same way anymore, you are forever judged, and rightfully so. This may all seem harsh, but those who have had this happen to them know exactly what I am talking about. To every and any excuse I say, you could have just left. Never cheated, but I do have an insight. Never had fun after 2 years. She never consented, but I never pushed after that either. She was a mental disaster. It's like she had her periods every day, and every day she had something to shout and argue about. She wasn't open to reason. I come off as an introvert. Her shenanigans literally gave me migraines and headaches, and even after I pleaded every day to not shout, she always did. Her surroundings were quite bad and offered genuine advice to fix it. She never did while we were in a relationship. Now here's a mental map of a guy, horny, unhappy, troubled, depressed, and finally not getting a shred of kindness from significant other. Yes, cheating looks like the effortless way out when that happens. TPH, I don't condone cheating and that sticks with you, but on the bright side, I left without after 2 years. Gave up my weed and cigarettes addiction, completely avoided alcohol for the last 6+ months, healthy mental health, deleted all presence from social media. Did try to get into dating, but all I could see were red flags, so at some point I decided to work on myself and my shortcomings. Dark thoughts may be scary, but actions stick with you till you die. 28 and still a virgin, will probably be a virgin till I die LMFAO. Stay strong fellow op. I was a stupid 16-year-old and I felt trapped in my relationship as they told me they would delete themselves if I left, and I started getting feelings for another girl and tried to break it off, but they threatened again and I was so stupid and thought a little flirting wouldn't hurt, but then it turned into something way bigger than just flirting, and then one morning my brother texted the girl I was cheating with on Instagram and told her I had a girlfriend because him and my GF were close, and they had shared how they felt insecure about her, and they all were so pissed at me, as they should have been. I felt insecure and thought I could get away with it and didn't know how big of a thing it would turn into. There is absolutely nothing that could excuse my actions, and I understand that everything that happened because I let it. I don't talk to the girl I cheated with, I haven't for 2 years, as she still wanted a relationship with me even after everything had happened, and that made realize that she was weird by who would do that. Not that any of it was her fault, but what? Anyway, me and my girlfriend's 3 years will be in October, and we have really improved and worked out our problems, and we have a better relationship than most kids our age. Thinking about it, I don't actually class this as cheating now, even though it felt like it at the time. My now ex and I were breaking up anyway due to her long-term infidelity, which I had recently found out about. In fact, I had moved out of our house not a week after the incident and going to describe. A woman basically threw herself at me at a work conference, and for once I didn't fight it. Given the circumstances, I needed an ego boost, and the thoughts of in for a penny, in for a pound came into my head. If my fiancé can have a fully blown emotional affair, and think it's okay, then I can have a one-night stand. It was absolutely brilliant, and under the circumstances, I don't regret it one bit. I regretted it even less when my now ex bullshitted her way through her explanation for her affair several months later. She made up a scenario in her own head that I was going to sleep with one of my colleagues. The colleague in question was undoubtedly very pretty, but also young, and therefore inappropriate. I also, and this is crucial, didn't actually fancy her. She was just a kid, to me, at the time. But my fiancé got irrationally and insanely jealous of her. I don't actually believe that was her reason for cheating on me, but hey. As far as excuses go, it was the one that finally made me see what a total she was. I am very, very well rid indeed. Once and once only. I'm not proud of it, but I don't regret it either. I've gone through many relationships and have been cheated on so many times. It hurts. A lot. And often it was with a close friend. Fast forward to my early 30s. I was in a long-term relationship with a girl who was a casual pothead. That should have been a red flag. The addiction got worse, and she became abusive. I was not doing too well mentally. A girl I worked with flirted with me often and told me I deserved better. After 6 months I caved. I felt so guilty, I broke it off and moved to a new city. I still live in that city. I have a wife now and 2 kids. I have a mortgage. My mental health is good. I have a wonderful life now. Quite different from drug-addicted ex. I feel bad for what I did, but it provided me with the guilt to move away from a toxic relationship and ended up better for me as a person. Love. I met this woman, and from that first moment we had something. We became friends. I really loved her. It led to getting physical. The problem? She's married. I was single. She wasn't massively happy at the time, and well, we had a lot of happy moments together. It went on for nearly a year. We broke off the physical side because we could see it wasn't right, but we remained friends. I got into a relationship a bit later. After that, me and that woman had a few slip-ups. Relapses. So technically we've both cheated. That was years ago. I'm still friends with her but don't really see her much, maybe swap messages every so often. I look back at it and while I'm not proud of being a cheater, I think it was on the whole positive. Love and happiness. No one got hurt. She's still married to the same guy and they're in a better place than they were. I'm still with my partner. I wonder how much cheating occurs because people never question the idea that all relationships must be 100% monogamous, forever. I'm monogamous myself, and I'd be devastated if my girlfriend cheated, and I wouldn't cheat on her. But just seeing other people in the world and their relationships, maybe monogamy just isn't for them. Married to a bipolar narcissist. That did not need to medicate, 'cause she could handle it. Got tired of talking to myself since ex and I would go several days to a week not talking 'cause I upset her over everything several times a month. I needed more in my relationship than basically nothing. The first time made me feel alive again. Made me feel wanted. So anytime I got that not going to talk to you until I am ready, I found someone that did want to talk to me. The first couple of years of doing this I felt guilty and ashamed every time we started talking again. The more it went on with not acting like I existed when a very minuet thing took place, the more I didn't care anymore. It finally got to the point where I didn't care if I got caught and that ended up becoming disastrous. He'll have no fury like a bipolar narcissist. Was dating a girl for 3 months at this point. I was head over heels for her, but I don't think she felt the same way about me. Communication is important, people. I got so in my head and delusional that I told myself she didn't even actually like me. I was in college and my neighbor downstairs had some people over. Got blacked out drunk and hooked up with said neighbor but knew exactly in the moment what I was doing was wrong but couldn't stop myself because she didn't really care about me anyways. Which was just my paranoid head talking. Therapy has made me realize some things and yes, I was the problem. Never again will I make that mistake. Because they were selfish, narcissistic ego-ridden jerks. More than likely with insecurities so deep they need constant validation that no human could give, while also maintaining a healthy and productive life, so they will turn around and play the victim and say I wasn't feeling wanted or shown attention blah 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 but yet they stayed in the relationship long enough to cheat low on other reason is bull. Lonely? Could have left the relationship. Wasn't happy? Could have left the relationship. No, they wanted their cake and wanted to eat it too. They obviously stayed with the person for a reason, financially they were supported or whatever else. The only reason I can ever see for cheating is being in an abusive relationship and seeing that as the only way out. Other than that, they are just selfish asses who can't see past their own wants. So many reasons. I was immature, I had intimacy issues, self-loathing, and I was also unhappy in my relationship with my ex. We weren't right for each other. Although I am glad it's over and in the past, I do regret hurting him how I did. I'll never do that to anyone ever again. I did it because he made me feel small. Always talked down to me and made comments like I was the one who was weird because of the way he acted. Then I found out he was doing that because he was feeling guilty that he was cheating on me. When I found out my gut instincts were true, I went out with his best friend who had been giving me hints that I was too good for that POS. Best revenge ever. Had just gotten out of a horrible relationship where I didn't learn to communicate. Was seeing 2 guys, one asked me to be his GF and I said yes prematurely. 2 days later cheated, didn't say anything for a few months but finally came clean because he was just such a sweetheart, and I couldn't keep it from him anymore. He was understandably terribly upset, but he saw it was reforming in our relationship. He is now my fiancé. We have a super clear line of communication about anything and everything and there's a no judgment policy so there's no need to keep secrets on how we feel. Panic. I was young, and the girl I was with during and shortly after high school was out of my league. She was the prom queen, I was selling drugs and making dumb decisions. She was headed off to a big college, and I was still making bad decisions. I was scared I couldn't break up with her and hurt her, and I couldn't watch her slowly leave me once we were in a long-distance relationship. So, I did something dumb, then realized I couldn't hide it either, so I straight up told her. We broke up, got back together for a couple more months. I knew it was just giving her time to work up to leaving me this time, which she did. Thankfully, it was one time ever, I admitted it, lived with the shame and will and would never do anything like that again. Also, I started making good decisions too. Went to college, worked a good paying office job, and just bought a brand new car this year. I'll be honest. I still feel super guilty even though it was so long ago. I cheated on my wife when we first got together. It wasn't her fault at all. It was all me. I had a hole in myself, and I thought the only way to fill it was with women. I was wrong. It made me feel worse. I hurt the person I love the most in the world, and luckily for me she had the heart to forgive me. All I had ever known was infidelity in my life. My mom cheated on my dad, my aunt on my uncle, my other aunt on my other uncle, my aunt and uncle cheated on each other. It took me a while to finally look at myself and see that I was the problem. My amazing wife forgave me, but she never forgot. It took years for her to trust me again, which I never thought she would, but I was willing to work hard to keep her. Now 11 years of marriage later we are happy, and life is going great. I still hate myself for how I hurt her. She never deserved that, and I definitely don't deserve her. Yes, my ego was off the charts. Felt I was an Adonis, women let me know as much, then one really came on strong. I was a geo-bachelor when all this happened, looking after my elderly father for a period, which gave me my evenings to myself, so I had time to burn, and she made me feel like I was the most important man in the world. It was intoxicating. Then the wheels came off at 80 miles per hour when my wife found out 10 months later. I did some soul-searching and realized I didn't want to lose her. I had hurt her immeasurably, and the other person as well. My life took a tailspin and I came crashing down to earth, trying to regain trust. It's been 7 years, but I'm finally emerging from the ash heap a better person, with ego in check now, and not so selfish. I am more empathic towards my wife's needs/wants. I was young, insecure, and I had a lot of fights with my GF back then. I cheated with a girl who had a BF. I did know her BF really well. Actually, he was a RLY good friend. After I cheated it, RLY hit me what an awful human I was. I got clear with everyone involved in this. Was single again, but her BF did actually forgive me and left her. I thought he is going to beat the fear out of me. And this girl I cheated with said it was all my fault and blocked me everywhere. This was a lesson for me and will never happen again. My brain was jacked up from watching Ugly from an early age. Also, major ego issue that was inflated. I was also very insecure and would latch on to anyone who would stroke my ego. Hired the wrong woman into my company and it was all downhill from there. Took some serious growing up to realize I caused so much pain and destruction to my family. I was in a relationship from 16 years old, he was 4 years older, for 5 years. Around 19-20 years old, so towards the end, I started cheating. I'd end it then goes out and party with the wrong crowd and things would happen. I was on all sorts of drugs and on a path of self-destruction, the cheating was part of that. I wanted to fade away. Looking back, I was far too young to have ever been in that relationship, and truly wished I had just walked away and stayed away. I always regretted what I did and do to this day. Never cheated again. I'm 33 now. I was 19 years old and on heroin. We dated all through school. I still dream about her over 10 years later. It was the worst mistake I have ever made in my life, other than shooting up heroin. Been cleaned up for 9 years and actually have a pretty normal life now, but I still think about her, and I still wonder. I was selfish and wanted comfort that was accessible, while my real relationship was far away. I wasted everything on it, and I regret it vehemently to this day. I was stupid, selfish, and I betrayed the one best thing that ever came into my life. I'd give anything to take it all back, but I have to live with the consequences. She deserves so much better than me, and I hope that she is happy wherever she is today. Was extremely unhappy in my relationship and was with an insanely abusive female. Yes. females can be abusive. So, I wound up one day spending a night with a coworker who turned out to now be my girlfriend. And I'm extremely happy and taken care of, loved, and appreciated, which is so nice. Because I have ADHD and need the dopamine rush. At the start, it is just there. Every little thing just makes me excited. And yes, there are issues, especially with my abilities. But they don't matter right now because don't you know I am just so involved. Then the constant rush wears off and I am not getting the dopamine hit. I am getting bored and the fact that I really suck is making it just so much worse. So, I started looking for a new way to get my dopamine. I found a subreddit and joined. I started hitting up Google to find just what I want. And I justify it by just looking up tricks to make it better and finding loopholes. I tell myself that this time I won't actually cheat. I will just look and not cross that line. Sometimes here I will take a break, but I always come back, usually sooner rather than later. But eventually, I really need the dopamine and I figure I can do this one little thing. It isn't a big deal, the only person I am hurting is myself. I won't go too far this time. And every time, it leads down the same slippery slope. There I am, full-blown cheating. My desire to complete things and do it perfectly mean I won't just give up despite it. So, I tell myself that it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. No one else will ever find out. Except I am always found out. Usually by my kids, who have become heavily invested in it. And they always call me out on it and tell me I need to give it up. But I can't. I need the dopamine rush. So here I am, with a weapon that can one-shot even the hardest bad guys, armor that protects me from 99% of hits, the ability to carry around half the known world on my back, a full walkthrough open on my phone, and so much money that even the largest purchases don't make a dent. So yes, it is my ADHD that makes me cheat in every single-player video game. Because I was young and I was dating the rebound guy, the nice safe guy that everyone was suggesting to me instead of the toxic I was seeking out. I was trying to do the healthy thing. My ex that I was still in love with but trying not to be came over, and I guess I felt more loyalty to him, like he was mine, and it wasn't wrong to be with the person you love. It was wrong, I did immediately tell and end things with the guy I was dating, but I wish I hadn't followed my friend's advice and even involved that poor nice man in my life. I was a stupid young male with a drinking problem that destroyed most of my young adult years and all relationships in the process due to incredibly stupid decisions I made. Have been single for 3 years now while I get myself back on track and get out of my unhealthy habits, and am proud of where I am today. Cheating sucks for everyone, it's not worth it, nor should it ever be an option. Never again. Never cheated myself, but I have been a mistress. His excuse was he wasn't happy in his marriage, that his wife was cold and distant and emotionally manipulative, only having fun with him for procreation purposes, which, in all fairness, she was, but that's no excuse. According to him, all she wanted was a baby, something he couldn't give because he was infertile. He claimed their marriage was ending. Told a real sob story. What it actually was a massive insecurity on his part, a feeling of inadequacy that he needed fixing, and damaged little me was just vulnerable enough to indulge that. Not to excuse my own behavior, of course, I knew full well he was married, and didn't question the lies he told me for a moment. Even though I knew it was wrong. Of course, he never left his wife, and flip-flopped between wanting me as a partner, a friend, and a therapist that validated his every choice. Either way, he was a massive man for what he did to his wife and to me, and I was a prat for going along with it until I learned some self-respect. I didn't study for the test because I thought I had 3 days. Turns out, I had 1 day, and my friend called me when she was outside of class. Made it to the class about 15 minutes late, turning a 30-minute drive into a 10-minute drive, then parked in instructor parking, and proceeded to immediately copy every answer I saw from her scant run onto mine. Managed to know enough about the rest of the content to squeak by. Managed to get back to my car before I got a parking ticket. Got an 86 and broke more traffic laws than I'd care to admit to. I regret nothing. We've been long distance for 4 years at that point. I felt lonely and insufficient, work sucked, and I needed an outlet. The outlet ended up being a random girl off an app that was really into beds, and she essentially fulfilled many of my fantasies over a 2-day bender. And if you are thinking 2 days, yes, she came over Friday afternoon and didn't leave my place until Sunday afternoon. It was a wild 48 hours. Drugs and dominoes are great bender fuel. Immediately after I didn't feel anything. Now that it has been a few years, I regret my actions and feel like I lost a piece of my ethics and morality that day. I will say, I don't believe in once a cheater always a cheater. That was the only time I ever did it, and I don't have any desire to do it again, but the regret will always be there. She dumped me every night for 2 weeks, but always said it didn't mean anything in the morning. She did it one more time. I said I accepted the dumping. She said good. A week later I hooked up with someone and she found out. Said we weren't broken up. She didn't mean it. So yes. Now according to her I'm a cheater. TPH, I struggle to see cheating as so terribly bad. Yes, depending on the situation it can be annoying and very inconvenient, but the way some people treat it as some sort of high treason is truly beyond me. We are not set up to be madly in love with one person for longer than a few months. Fantasies of other partners will cross my mind, but as long as they are fleeting, there isn't much to worry about. If I'm at a stage where I absolutely have to act on my feelings towards a new partner, it means that I need it. Full stop. Time will show whether it will lead to a breakup with the old partner or some non-monogamous arrangement. At least, that's how I used to think and act for a large part of my life. These days I try to prevent unpleasant situations by only pursuing non-monogamous relationships from the start out. My ex's depression meant we never slept in the same bed. He would cry a lot and it was impossible to console him. He refuses to touch me because he felt he didn't deserve me. Every time he misses my call I would panic that he had successfully taken his own life. Any time spent together was suffocated by his depression, etc. My needs were not being met in any way and his condition became worse and worse. The constant worry that I would find him dead at our home increasingly made me not want to go home, but I had to because he would tell me he was only alive because of me. I cheated to feel something warm on my skin. To be seen. For my heart to feel and beat again. I discovered he was on dating apps and attempting to cheat on me. He was my first love, so it cut pretty deep. I was curious about being with someone else as I had only been with him. My discovery made me just go for it. I cheated on him with 2 different guys. Not my proudest moments, and I'd never do anything like that again, but I suppose I got there first. I was a very misguided person. I'd been abandoned my whole life, abused in all ways, and had a massive alcohol problem stemming from it. Physical contact from anyone showing interest made me feel validated, or real. I always found it odd as a sizable portion of my issues came directly from that very thing. I genuinely don't remember a sizable portion of my life and the way I treated people, and that's no excuse. I have literally poured all my efforts into being the person I hid inside. If my wife is any indication as to my progress in life, I'd say I'm on the right path. Cheating is never acceptable. I'm not condoning it. I just understand how it can happen. Emotional needs, or various other things matter to all people. Communicate honestly, and if your needs aren't being met, it's okay to leave instead of cheating. I was unhappy and should have left my relationship when my girlfriend gained almost 100 pounds in 2 to 3 years. I was too immature to be a man and admit the relationship isn't what I wanted anymore and found it easier to lie to her and keep running around behind her back. She never found out. We had a nasty breakup that could have easily been avoided had I just been honest. My advice to all young men feeling the urge to cheat on a partner is if you feel the need to hook up with others that bad, you aren't ready for long-term commitment, and that's okay, but you need to do what makes you happy without having to do it in secret. I didn't feel like she really cared about me after telling me maybe I would want to hang out more if you made yourself less available, mixed in with my own insecurity about stuff. It doesn't make it all right. I regret it since you really don't respect your partner if you do that. Plus, I just don't want to be someone who cheats. I am, but I hope to never do that again. How we act is how we contribute to the world. I would like to not contribute like that ever again. I definitely wasn't emotionally mature enough for a relationship. I made plenty of mistakes and I believe I learned from them. Sometimes it is just old-fashioned chemistry. We are all programmed to be attracted to others, and, if you've lived on this earth for any length of time, there have probably been some extremely elevated levels of chemistry hard at work. I am not offering an excuse, simply basic biology. It is up to us all to have the strength to resist the attraction. Dating and being married does not in any way turn off our biology. Because I could. Simple. Because I knew I wouldn't get caught. The whole theme about women having omniscient women's intuition got proven to be a falsehood early on, when I found I could not just cheat but maintain multiple relationships without them knowing about each other. And even when they did, often they didn't care. They either took it as an ego boost, well clearly, I can do something she can't if you keep coming back to me, or they were just apathetic, it was our relationship, not hers, she just wanted fun. It also helped that I was the safe space friend who many women would confide in how they found out their partners cheated, which helped me learn how to cover my tracks, not get cocky or sloppy, etc., and not make the mistakes that their partners did. I also saw how many of them got cheated on and stayed, taking it as some sort of weird competition thing. Why should she get to have him? He's mine. And saw that cheating isn't the automatic deal breaker a lot of people say it is. It's quite interesting that the mental and emotional gymnastics people will exonerate the cheater or even take the blame themselves. So, it was like cheat. Even if you get caught, she's not even guaranteed to break up with you. And yes, often shoulders to cry on and safe space friend had no problem going for a walk at midnight, which is something I've always enjoyed doing anyway, since I was about 15, and sliding through. I wouldn't say it was for power or for lust, I didn't ever tell anyone, so it wasn't for clout or status amongst my friends, male or female. I didn't do it because my girlfriends didn't make me happy or satisfied, quite the contrary, most of my girlfriends were and most likely still are total wife material. It's just like a meme I saw years ago, if you had $100 in your pocket and you saw $1 on the ground, would you pick it up? There you go, and that's why people cheat. Honestly, there's no reason other than insecurity, and at the time my partner was not treating me kindly. I regret it every day of my life. I was cheated on as well and I knew the pain but still did it. I don't think the feeling of hurting someone who didn't deserve it will ever go away. I see a lot of people feel bad here and I can understand that, you know. The unfortunate thing is if you're married to somebody, and they refuse to have fun with you for whatever reason they expect you to do, spend your whole life waiting and expecting something that you expect in a marriage. It just doesn't work. You're really going to live with so much regret and hate for that person that you won't. It's not even worth living with that person. Are you better off just, I don't know. I know too many people that are in relationships that suck because they want to be around the kids, and it's not fair, it really isn't. And if there's a woman out there that's willing to satisfy you and you're both okay with it, I say go for it. I was severely neglected by my ex. We had kids, and I became less than last priority. I cooked, changed diapers, showered the kids, and put them in bed daily, and was the breadwinner, and my ex was the princess who was busy being stressed over everything, but really not doing much at all. And again, all of this, despite me being the one taking care of everything. I think my subconscious wanted to rebel against the situation. I cheated by getting a successful conclusion message. It was clearly not about the orgasm. I can jerk myself off simply fine, but for an hour and for about $120, it was all about me. I would get a nice relaxing massage, and a successful conclusion. It was my secret escape, the moment in which I reclaimed myself for myself. When she found out, she immediately asked for a divorce. Still, I claim she broke our deal first by absolutely not being there by my side through thick and thin. In retrospect, I should have ended it after our therapy sessions yielded nothing. I was just too scared a divorce could become nasty and affect the kids. For me, the kids are above everything, and I try to avoid hurting them at all costs. Fast forward to today and I'm happy, the kids are happy and healthy, I have a girlfriend who takes care of us all and we take care of her back, and my ex is still that same person who is selfish, self-absorbed, incompetent, and incapable of forming relationships because she just no longer cares about relationships. She hasn't gone on a single date since we got divorced 6 years ago. I truly wish her well, but I'm only glad I'm out of there. I didn't feel wanted, appreciated, or enjoyed. Someone else gave me those things. I wish I'd had the courage to directly communicate it instead of cope that way. I once had a therapist tell me that people typically cheat for one of two reasons: either a cry for help that something isn't right in the relationship, or that they want out and do to have the courage to say so. Not physical cheating but more emotional cheating. I blame it on my stupidity. Met a girl. Knew immediately I liked her and could fall for her. Kept chatting with the intention of being friends, have successfully done something like this before. Shocked Pikachu face when I fell for her hard, and that made me realize that I wanted out of my then relationship. It's been over 5 years and I still regret it badly. I had a groom show up at my door. I was the stripper at fiancé's bachelorette party. He was more hurt than angry. He was crying so bad he collapsed in my arms and was having a panic attack. They were high school sweethearts of 13 years, kids. After he calmed down a bit, he pulled out a knife and handed it to me, saying to stab him in the heart because that's the pain he's feeling. He was begging me to end it. I tried my best to empathize and apologize and just be there for him, but nothing calmed him down. I've never seen someone so hurt that it haunts me to this day. That was the last day anyone saw him alive. After he left, he took his own life, going 140 miles per hour into a tree. I quit shortly after. It's been 9 years now. Have never slept with a taken woman since then. It just changed my perspective on how my actions have consequences. I hope I never feel the pain he felt, but at the same time I know karma will find me. I'll be waiting with open arms. Couple months into a relationship and my girlfriend's best friend's boyfriend tried to kill himself, wrote a breakup letter about how she ruined his life basically. So, she called hysterically. My girlfriend was at work, so I picked her up and brought her to my house until we would go get my girlfriend after work and they can talk. I don't know what happened. She's sitting on my couch in a skirt, and she was saying how no one likes her, she will never get another guy, and I just said that she was cool and pretty, and then from there I actually ended up staying with my girlfriend for 10 years after that, but because of cheating on her in the beginning the trust was gone and we both cheated on each other a few times. It was like the perfect odd script. Wasn't worth it and I have no good excuse for it, wish I could take it back. Married young, grew apart. Grew with another, in the same life pattern. I'm short, I cheated myself out of a lifelong miserable existence that would have lifelong negative impacts on kids, her, and I. We're now thriving. As for those thinking, but you could have given the original relationship a chance. Perhaps that exists in another gravitational timeline. I'm happy it's not mine. I used to cheat because she wasn't putting out as much, and I don't beg for pussy. I'll ask once or twice, but if she said not tonight or not now or not in the mood, I'll just say okay and go get it from the next woman. I know it's a petty reason and I should have just left her, but back then I had options and wanted my ex for my emotional needs and another for my needs. But now that I actually think about it, I've only been faithful to one woman so far. That's the one I'm with now, but back then I did not care. I wanted what I wanted, when I wanted it. My ex cheated on me first, with many people for an extended period of time, and I didn't break up with him because honestly I was at an exceptionally low point in my life, and I thought I was in love with him and couldn't leave. So, a year later after he cheated, I cheated because I thought it was fair and I wanted him to be hurt like I was. And out of lust. I do not think he was hurt like I was. He was mad, but it did not wreck him emotionally. It helped me realize we were definitely not meant to be together. I was young, we'd been doing the kind of sort of on-off thing my senior year of high school, officially got together that summer, then I went to college, and he stayed behind. He was older and was already saying he loved me, giving me super specific nicknames, just laying it on thick. He also had zero ambitions or goals, and I just realized if I stayed with him, I'd probably end up back as a stay-at-home spouse/mom in my small town forever, which was not what I wanted at all. I made out with 2 dudes at a party one night and, to my credit, broke up with him the next day. I'm bi. When I first got together with my wife, however, I was still in the closet about it entirely and in denial. I had dabbled with other guys a bit during drunk times before I met her, but never went all the way, so to speak. Though I did go all the way with a few trans girls, in my head, it was best of both worlds, and I could make myself feel better about it because of the femininity. Felt less gay, stupid, I know. Anyway, for the first 2 or 3 years we were together, I had managed to shut off that part of my brain and feel/present as 100% a CR8, but it never actually went away. Eventually, I slipped back into sometimes watching some gay, chatting on Grindr, bought a collection of dildos and women's panties and lingerie that I would try on in private and take pics. I would often chat with and tease guys on the grinder but always had to flake and ghost because I would chicken out. This secret hobby snowballed over time until my wife, girlfriend at the time, went on a week-long vacation with her sisters. I got too drunk each night and did my teasing, all dressed up as a sissy until the dam broke and I couldn't take it anymore. I went for it. Reasoned with myself that I just had to get it out of my system and it would buy me a lot of time. I knew this, so it made sense to me that I would feel fulfilled on that side of my desires for a while. Also, I stupidly thought of cheating with a man as not really cheating. Dumb, but I convinced myself of that. So yes, that's why I did it if anybody finds this interesting. I hooked up with 5 guys before my girl figured it out one night when I got so drunk that I left my phone in the bathroom after my shower. I finished my shower and went to sleep drunk. She got up to pee at like 3 a.m. and my phone made a notification noise. She never once looked at my phone before that day, but she says something told her to in that moment. She found lots of evidence. The story has a successful conclusion though. After the initial blow up, I got to explain my history with that whole side of me. She revealed to me that she is also bi. After a lot of talking and going over our lives and our past and future, we came out of it stronger and closer than ever. Got married later. These days we're both incredibly open and accepting about it. Plan to have some threesomes of both types and we're both free to set with rondos on apps. It works out, surprisingly. Definitely insecurity, but at the time when he asked me, I had cheated multiple times by that point, and I didn't have an answer except I don't know. We were in his relationship going into college. When I was young, part of me didn't even understand why I did it. It was like I was on autopilot. Also was more attractive in college than in his. And I didn't even think before I acted and hooked up with these ugly dudes. She cheated first and I knew because she got free Molly from some guy and then broke up with me a couple of days later and dated him. The day after she mentioned the free Molly, I ate out a chick who was twice as hot and didn't even smash after because I just wanted revenge. I was in college, studying abroad 5,000 miles away. Met a hot girl and her friends at a bar. We made out, gave her the address of the family I was staying with, this was before cell phones, and she messaged me through them. She pursued me and we had fun, and it was great. My girlfriend back home was also awesome. I was a horny and wanted to be loved, and also hot women are hard to turn down at that age, for me anyway. We dated back in undergraduate around 2007. A few months ago, she reached out to me on FB. She had married the next person she met after me. I told her not to marry him, but she did. I always remembered her. And up until 5 months ago assumed she never thought of me. I was wrong. She had dreams about me and messaged me on FB. We talked and we connected more than we ever thought possible. We fell in love again. It was wrong. So wrong. But we decided it was our only time. So, we slept together when I flew up back home a month ago. We talked about leaving our partners for each other. But we ended up not. It is the worst thing on earth. What we did I can't believe, but we couldn't stay away. We tried. We love each other, but we'll never be able to be together. It's the worst feeling ever. And I hate myself. We'll never speak to each other again. Life sucks. I 26M cheated on my girlfriend of 5 years. She's 26. I know it's a scummy thing to do, but hear me out. Basically I went out drinking with the boys. Her younger sister, she just turned 19, was there and I just came to say hi to her and we were both really drunk. So we started talking and kind of being flirty. The thing is her sister showed me these signs when she was younger, which is again really messed up. She trained volleyball her whole life and is in amazing shape, so one thing leads to another. And I end up taking her home and we sleep together. It's been 2 months since this happened and my GF doesn't know it. Her sister didn't tell a thing. She told me her little sister suddenly stopped talking to her and is being super distant. Basically I really hard and I just can't tell her, it will completely break her. What to do? Why I cheated. I was drunk and it was an accident. I'll never do it again. I feel guilty. I have never cheated on anyone, not while being with them. I have been cheated on by my first lover, by a gay guy. I have been cheated on by my second lover, my third lover, and that would be it. My fourth lover was supposed to be my third, so I realized that and married her before anything else went on. I'm spoken for. I guess most of it happens cause of mistrust or lies or the words one can use. Also, no love in a loveless relationship can cause it too. I mean, there are so many reasons why it can happen, but I have never seen why anyone would do it. Just tell her so you're not happy and try to work it out, but if that's not possible then move on. It's a pain I still feel, all those years down the drain for nothing. Sickening actually how men are and how some girls are. They don't realize it's like taking a knife and cutting them, same idea. It causes a scar on that emotional level. Us men are the worst when it comes to temptation. It sucks, but it's true. My temptation only has eyes for one set of eyes, always has. But in my friend, it has happened to me 3 times before. Makes the whole idea of love almost worthless. But there is someone out there for everyone. My ex was unsure, and she made me feel unwanted by always hanging out with dudes she used to hook up with, but apparently not doing anything. One day this female friend of mine got me drunk and hit on me at a party. We started making out because I thought, hey, maybe if I get some action my GF will respect me again. She was madder at the girl like I was some property of hers. She then admitted she tried to kiss her friend a month later after the fact. She had been wanting to do that. Bottom line, just break up with them if you feel that way. Relationships are hard, but they shouldn't be work or super stressful and wondering if they actually care. If you have to wonder, they are either insecure and hiding how they feel or they just don't feel as strongly as you do. I was mentally and emotionally unstable. Experienced heavy indoctrination into the Mormon faith, and when I left my entire sense of self behind as well. Trying to piece together a personality as a fully grown married adult was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do in my life. It doesn't excuse my behavior, but it certainly helps myself and others understand a bit more behind why it happened. Has never happened again since then. Thankfully I was able to figure it out. It was my first relationship, and everything was great for 2 years even though we were a long distance, until we moved in together, away from our families. Then he got a new PC and started playing online non-stop anytime he was off work, to the point I'd eat all my dinners alone while he was gaming. In bed, he seemed to lose interest in me and started rejecting me anytime I tried to start something. It was suddenly the complete opposite of before we moved in together. To this day, I have no idea why he changed so fast. Regardless, my self-esteem took a huge hit, and I also felt deprived of touch. I started losing feelings for him. So, when a friend of mine seemed interested and got flirty with me, I'll admit I didn't resist exceptionally long at all. I cheated because I was frustrated. My ex didn't treat me well and there was a lot of gaslighting. So, it was basically a mixture of frustration, anger, and revenge. I never told him cause for me it was enough to know what I did. Not telling him was the biggest part of revenge for me. Now, a few years later, I learned to handle negative emotions and let off steam in diverse ways, like running and hiking.
Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, share and subscribe. The Internet Surfer on YouTube for more horror and scary stories.